What's happening? I am here with Jeff from VAF in Indianapolis. How are you, Jeff?
Doing great, my man. Good to see you. Life good for you?
Life is good for me. I'm coming to the end of a very long travel season. I got one more left. I'll be at IT Nation. Hopefully, I see you guys there or some of your team there next week down in Orlando. We wanted to have you on here today, get a little background about the company, see how you've been doing over the last couple of years. It's been a bit since we checked in. You reminded me you've been on the show before. Give us a little background. Tell us about VAF.
Sure. So we're a 111-year-old. Okay, still can't believe we're that old. Technology consulting and service delivery company headquartered in Indianapolis. We cover the state and the region. A lot of unique capabilities. We've been very blessed uh, to have incredible employees over the decades. We do everything from IT managed services as an MSSP. We have our SOC 2 certification, and so huge focus around security, compliance, and automation. We're in the business telephone business, document conversion. Printing is a core competency for us. Service and support delivered there, and we have our own SaaS application where we're basically doctors and lawyers are dictating on a platform that we provide. We're in every state across the nation. We have a data center in Germany, and we resell that platform internationally as well. So, a lot of technology that we provide, and one of the things you got to do to be successful is you got to have great people and you got to choose great partners, and we've been very blessed with that.
You got great partners. You're a big Canon dealer for A3 and for Brother. You're an excellent reseller for them. And we chatted before we came on about some love you've got for them. That's your A4 line, and you do really well with it. So we wanted to Brother put me in touch with you. We wanted to spend some time talking about how it's gone with them. You picked them up what, a couple years ago at this point?
Yeah, I want to say, and this is I'm a little rough estimate here, but I think right around 2019 or so,
Oh, a
we
few
picked them
years.
up. Yeah, it's been a few years. We just with some of our partners, and those have shifted over the years on who we sold in printing. When we looked at the A4 line, there were some opportunities there, either from pricing or breadth of what they offered. And some of my employees here had experience with selling Brother, and I didn't know about their Workhorse series, right? I knew about the consumer line and didn't know if that was a fit. But then they introduced me to the Workhorse line, and I just had an opportunity to meet the people from Brother. And Andy, I tell you what, man, it reminds me of 20 years ago when there was tremendous focus on the relationship and really put their money where their mouth was to support you as a partner. They're just incredible people there.
Well, we've seen them grow, and they started several years ago when I wouldn't say dipped their toe, but they came into this, this side of the industry, the dealer channel, what we call the BTA channel, right? And beefed up that line, made it a lot more than just these light, smaller printers that most of us were familiar with from home or from retail operations. Everyone saw them in a hotel. And they just, all of a sudden you started seeing a lot of people from the A3 world get hired into the Brother environment, and they've run with it. They've found a niche. A4 is the fastest growing segment in our area, in our industry, right? So, there's a big shift from A3 to A4. You've got to have a good A4 partner, and these guys, started from ground zero and created this program. Um, so you like them. That's what I'm
I
hearing.
do. Let me tell you a story. This is phenomenal, right? And this will talk to exactly what I talk about partnership. So we've got a Fortune 200 customer, and we support, I don't know, close to 4,000 devices for them across the country. And we had a printer fleet out there, and in the construct of the contract, was really kind of turning on us financially for a number of reasons that are irrelevant right now. But we were looking for a solution to try to get us out of that we could support just us across the country, because as you know, when you're deploying A4 and you're out of geography and you don't have brick and mortar, it becomes pretty pricey, and you can quickly price yourself out of that game, and then you lose control of the service and support around it as well. So we met with Brother, we worked on the model, and we came up with a great solution that was a win-win for the customer and for us. But there were some dynamics that happened during the timing of the contract. There was a little bit of COVID involved. There was price volatility happening between when I closed it and that. And so all of a sudden the margins got fairly compressed. And I had a pretty big problem about how I was going to deploy. And this is the partner that they are. So we were having strategy sessions about how we were going to do this and afford it and make it still a financial win. And Brother volunteered okay, in some areas to send their people out there to help us do the deployment without impacting it from a cost perspective, right? And picked up marketplaces were part of the deployment team, not only make a great product that is stable, it works, but they also stepped up to do help us execute the deployment in a difficult time. And I've never seen that
They
before.
rolled up their sleeves and went
They
out there and
rolled
did
their
the dirty
sleeves.
work.
Right. So it's not just, it's a partnership, man. And the devices are incredibly stable, right? They don't break very often. And then programmatically, they have their VPP Plus program, right, which allows us um, to basically execute a swap. As I mentioned, it's kind of problematic on a large A4 contract to put them out of geography, and you're paying, the third party, and then all of a sudden the cost can go up. Well, with the swap program, they allow us to do all the triage. Okay. And so what that means is a customer calls in for a service call. Let's say the rollers are broken on it. And instead of us trying to send a break fix tech out there, all I'm going to do is execute a swap. I can handle that. Brother, handles a rebate on the back end of it. We drop ship the device. And then, they've got a software solution that allows it, for me to get connectivity with that device without even having to go through the network. And so from a holistic program, it really allows me to capture all that service revenue and then execute on a good customer, satisfaction throughout the process.
So, what's the impact been? You've gone from having to send texts out every time they fix to now you're able to. Sounds like you're able to depend on this with the VPP program, this shipment replacement method. How has that impacted you, and what was that like shifting? Because you have a whole business based on sending those texts out, right?
Right.
Um,
Well,
what kind
so
of margin improvement have you got seen out of that? What's that program been like, and how easy is it for you to shift the way you used to do it into this new model?
yeah, so there's several impacts. Number one, profitability, and where I can send my own text out, I'm doing that, right? So we'll start there. But everything else that's out of geography where I don't have brick and mortar, I don't have to send any text out to it because if the product breaks, I'm just going to swap the device, and programmatically, brother supports me on that. Okay, so from a impact on margin on the account, I think we went up close on just that enterprise account. I think we went up 30%, right?
Ooh.
So I mean, it was absolutely dramatic. You're right, absolutely, and that was the program. It's program driven, right? And then the support that they have, and the only way that that really works is if they build a device that's stable, right, and it doesn't break all the time. Because
Yeah,
if it did,
otherwise they're shipping back and forth the
100%,
customer
then that
doesn't want to
would
keep doing that, right?
right, it'd be disruptive for the customer,
Yeah.
and then you move that change would be a pain in the butt. All of that stuff comes together. But I think the outcomes are better profitability for us. I can, I'm not piecing together a service program. This is all me handling it. So I have full control for the customer, which has a dramatic impact on customer satisfaction. And again, like I said, the profitability of it. So it's been wildly successful for us, especially for our customers that have out of geography across the country.
So on their side of the customer side of it, it's a different experience. They're used to having a tech come in. That's the way it's always been, and fix it, and then come back and fix it, and come back and fix it. What's their experience like when they get a fresh out of the box machine like this? I mean, it's just I love getting a new anything, unboxing it. Maybe not if I have to keep replacing a printer, but you've got this printer that's been sitting there for 6 months or 8 months or however long, and it's getting smudged up and banged up, and all of a sudden they've got a brand new box there. What I've got to think that they're in love with this.
Yeah, they are. I think, like anything is defining expectations with them about what you're going to deliver. There's two sides of it. Yeah, you get a new thing, but for IT professionals, sometimes that can, they could view that as a pain in the butt because, oh my gosh, I got to have another machine out there. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have to figure all this stuff out. But programmatically, we take care of all that because we enable the equipment before we drop ship it. And then, brother partnered with 3Manager. Okay. And one of the things we all have trouble with the DCA is when that client is sitting on the network. If their security programs have to scan it, it can slow down, it can drop off the network, and then you lose visibility to the device. Well, with 3Manager, this essentially makes the device smart, and you don't have to load the client on the network, and so you're pushing that right to that device, and I don't have to go through their firewall so that I can make sure and be able to manage that device.
So
And
that's
so
configured when they get it. It's out of the
yeah,
box set. Just plug it in.
we enable it so that it can be, and as soon as it's plugged in, then you have access to it, right? And so it's an absolute home run. And again, it allows me to manage that entire fleet rather than giving all that service revenue to another company and losing control.
Do you think your local customers would be into something like that, or is you got text to use, right? So I mean,
Yeah,
is it crept into your mind that maybe we start using it this way too?
it's possible. I mean, you could do that, but right now we give great service in the marketplace, and we certainly like to use our people when we can. But for remote places, or you never know with things that come up, I've got that possibility to flare up if I needed it.
Now, how remote do they go? I mean, I'm guessing coast to coast. Is it? I
Yeah,
mean,
it doesn't
is there
matter.
there's is there any limitation for you?
No, zero, right?
Wherever they can ship it to, basically.
Yeah, wherever, right? It's perfect. It's wonderful and allows us to flex. So, I mean, when I approach RFPs and I'm looking at some strategies, there's mega dealers. I'm not a mega dealer, right? We've got good brick and mortar and we've got great size and we can compete. But, there's advantages to having, offices in multi geographies and that you can access it to keep your cost level down. Now I've kind of mitigated all of that with this program. I can go and compete and not push my costs out of whack so that I can go win this business where I'd have to get super creative before financially.
So the trade-off, I'm guessing, is there any, is the shipping time, right? Because you guys have a reputation for I'm going to guess 2 to 4 hour service time. How do you get around that? What are those shipping times like? Is there any issue on the other end with that where customers are just like, I can't wait that long?
Yeah, to me, all of that's defined in the SLA of the agreement, and if I can get them bought into the program and tell them exactly what that's going to look like, I haven't run into a situation where that was a deal, a deal killer at all.
So
But
it's setting expectations, really.
100%. You get your SLA and you design your service level agreement and a master agreement around it. And generally, once you introduce that, especially sometimes for the A4, I mean, we can always kind of define that. What I would do is if there's a mission critical application, let's say it's a line printer, it's in an emergency room or something like that. What we typically do is just put a hot swap right there on site for them. That way, we don't have to worry about it. That device goes down. I got your hot swap. For everything else, generally a day or two shipping, customers usually okay with.
So Brothers Brand isn't one that these guys recognize in the office as much as they do in some of the areas we talked about earlier, commercial and retail and things like that. What's the customer reaction been like to a new brand like them coming into their office for the first time? Do they care?
Some do, right? I mean, there's still always that, there's always that, some of those things you never got fired for X,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I used to say it
But
all the time when I sold it.
yeah, right. But for the most part, when we've tested it and we trialed it and we run our sales process, and then we demonstrate to them, the data for uptime and how well those things perform, and then the program on top of it, customers are generally pretty wowed by that. And then, we've had enough success with some very at large enterprise Fortune 500 companies, that have done it. Well, there's safety in numbers, and if you can replicate that experience and set good expectations and trial it, generally you get good results.
Very cool. Well, let's shift gears and talk a little bit about fulfillment, the CPP model with the program with auto fulfillment. How much are you guys using that, and what's that experience been like?
Are you just talking about the auto
Auto
toner?
fulfillment, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We do. We use it. We still have we're a little bit of a hybrid approach. We have a couple different DCAs, which can get problematic, from time to time. But with Three Manager, we have been evaluating that. And the nice part of that product is it works flawlessly, right? For every way that we've used it, from deployment, works great. It has integrations with CEO Juice. And one of the, I would say, the unique benefits of Three Manager, although we don't enable it today, is that it can actually from the alert, it can send an automated message to distribution to actually order the toner. And so it creates some automation there and it has some uniqueness to be able to do that. So it's pretty slick.
So you think that might be on the horizon? Something you're looking
Oh,
into?
oh, 100%. I think it's worth investigating. We've tested it. It works well. We sometimes don't eat all of our own dog food, right? In automation. And so, we're slow to fully deploy. We want to make sure that everything's worked out, but all of our testing and everything has worked out great with it.
So that's the direction you're heading.
Absolutely. Yeah. With our IT business, we're really kind of on the edge of using AI and doing automation. It's a pretty central part of what we do. And so we want to adopt that technology where we can so we can be competitive.
Well, with your IT business, let's talk about cloud solutions and on-prem DCAs. What are your customers asking for? Are they really moving into that as heavily as they were a couple of years ago? Are they pulling back on it? What's your experience been like that? And then how's Brother playing into that?
Yeah, it's getting more and more problematic, right? For most DCAs at some level, it's scanning the network, right? And as they scan the network with complex security tools that have different group policies and procedures that are happening in the background, it knocks the application off. It doesn't allow it to do it, and sometimes the security tools that they're using doesn't allow it to do its job, and ultimately that impacts delivery, right? If I can't get them the toner, I can't see the device, I can't get my meter, that's a customer experience problem. The nice part about Three Manager is that, again, you don't have to load that client on the network, right? Especially for the Brother devices, you can load it right there on the device, and I don't have to cut through the firewall and get inside of that. And so there's some really, really unique advantages for leveraging that tool.
Well, with Three Manager, are you doing more on the devices now? Is it just a case by case? What's your preference?
I always think when you have a strategy that's comprehensive is better. We haven't, to just show the dirty laundry, right? We haven't fully embraced that yet. We are using Prenanista also in some categories. We haven't flipped over to it, but we certainly have the opportunity to do that and move fully to that product. But we just haven't done it yet.
So going down the road, tell me about where you're heading with Brother. What do you are you building a bigger footprint with them? It sounds like you are. Is as we shift to A4, is this really because you do have another brand that you use as well. But Brother is the one you've been known for, and I've heard about from people in Brother that you get it. And you've been taking advantage of a lot of these programs and having a lot of success with them, which is why you're here. So
Yeah.
maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we're an HP Premier dealer. We're a Canon dealer, and so we have A4 solutions with them, and they have wonderful products. I talked a lot about that partnership, right? And I have don't please my other partners don't take this to the wrong way. We have wonderful partnerships with our other partners, but the A4 they're super laser focused on that. The tools that they brought, the price point works, and then the program works for us. So we're poised to really grow with Brother. They're what we lead with, primarily because of that programmatic advantage that they provide. And as we, just as the sands are shifting right now in the print space, and geographies don't matter as much as they used to matter, now. And as we start going after these fleets, I still have some challenges that I haven't been yet to solve with other solutions. With the way that they've designed those programs, I can go after these nationwide, and I can compete, from a pricing standpoint, and then certainly from a service level where I have full control, right? And that makes it powerful. I can sell that. I can provide value to our customers, and it's just a good partnership. And so, yeah, I do. I think we're positioned to grow together.
Very cool. I always think of the sales rep, right? And it's always the path to least resistance, and they know how to sell what they've always been selling. And this is a different program, a different sale. You're selling the remote service. You're selling, sending back the devices instead of for if they're not located near you. Like, how has it been getting these guys up to speed with it? Your team, and how accepting are they of these new programs? What are their thoughts on it? I mean, you're driving it, but they have to do it.
Yeah, it starts with making sure that we're doing a good job from a training perspective, and Brother steps up and supports us on that. I think we have, monthly cadence calls where they're stepping up, doing programs, they're doing sales contests, they're doing all kinds of things to keep it relevant in front of our reps. Secondly, you got to highlight where you've had success, and when you take down a Fortune 200 account and you're putting out thousands of printers, and you see, and the reps are able to see success from a commission standpoint, and I can sell it at that level, that doesn't hurt. And then the other part of it, brother listens, right? And I had told them at one of their meetings that, if you really want to get sticky, I mean, Andy, this back in the day, I've worked for Xerox and they used to send you to Leesburg where,
I went there myself.
it was like the Branch Davidian, man. When you walked out of there, you had Xerox and X planted all over your body. I mean, or with HP, you go off and and they HP and it's all about security, and you walk out of there and it's all you think. And so I had made that mention to brother, and all of a sudden they designed a class that they could have it so they have a 3-day immersion for our sales professionals to go out there and get all of the value prop along brother and make sure and walk out of there with the big B on their shoulder, and walk out of it. So, I think it's a layered approach as always. And they work to support us through that stuff.
I would think that just somebody ringing that bell with a 4,000 unit deal will get everybody fired up.
Everybody attention. How do I do that? I want to do that, right?
That's the question. How did you do that? I remember, we would always, anytime someone got a big one, how did you do? It was like it was magic, and it was not magic. It was just, partial luck and mostly a lot of hard work, right? Staying on the account and cultivating and seeing it through to the end. And you win some, you lose some. But that's a good one. Congratulations on that one. We're kind of at the end of this. I'd like to get just, if you have any thoughts or advice for some guys selling brother that may not have fully jumped into the the VPP plus program. What are your thoughts to that? What advice can you offer these guys?
I just say talk to them, right? Number one, it's got to fit for what your strategy is. But, like I said, I think back to the support and the relationship like it was a long 20 years ago, right? Where they are going to invest in you. You can trust them, all right, to support you. They will step up and put their money where their mouth is. They're not going to sell you something and then leave you hanging. They listen, they're agile. One of the things I didn't even mention is, during that deployment, we ran into a problem, and through their utility BR admin tool, it had to be modified, and they were able to modify the software on the spot within a week, changed it to work in the environment they were. So agility is their investment. They didn't charge me, 20 grand to do that. They just did it to make sure it was a customer sat. Right. The product is stable. It doesn't break very often. And then they have the program to support your customer so you can control it and maintain profitability. It's a win-win, right?
It
So
is a win-win. Yeah, they've really done it. I mean, coming out of the gate with nothing, maybe 7 years ago, 8 years ago at this point, I remember being at one of the early meetings, and there were just a handful of dealers, and they were more like advisors almost than resellers to Brother, just because the questions were going very different directions than they typically go at a dealer meeting. It was mostly brother asking them, what do we need to do? What do you need from us? How do we build this program? And then, I mentioned before, but they brought a lot of talent in from the A3 companies that had worked with these dealers before, understood the relationships. And that's probably where you're getting a lot of the going above and beyond and hand holding and just being there for you. Like you mentioned, the way it was 20 years ago, the way, a lot of these manufacturers really used to do things. It's everybody's had to scale back, make changes, and brother came in and was hungry for it, right? And it was it's a crowded field. There's a lot of A4 choices, but there's still the new kid on the block, and every brother dealer I talk to is in love with them. They just seem to be taken care of.
Andy, I got a call this morning from Jake Bowling at 7:30. We were talking this morning, and he was talking about ideas of how we invest and grow together, right? And that's not unusual. I mean, they're just great people over there, man. So I
That's a
highly encourage
partner.
anybody that's listening to talk to them.
That's a partner.
It's a partner. You got it.
Well, on that note, I'm going to say thank you very much for coming on the show. You've been great. And any last shout outs to anybody?
Nope, but hey, buddy, it's great to see you. Great talking to you, man. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, bud.